Hi everybody, welcome to the Museum of Anthropology. My name is Issaku Inami. I'm a settler, I'm a queer person of color, and a volunteer here at the museum. I am located on the traditional, ancestral, and ceded land of Musqueam people, where I am sustained and nurtured by the land every day. For that, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Musqueam people. Thank you. I am here very excited to discuss Miss Chief's Sovereign Eroticism, Queer Indigenous Resilience in Kent Monkman's work with June Scudeler. June.
Tansei Kiowa, June Scudeler, Niatagasin, Neshapanak, Red River, Manitoba, Batoche, Saskatchewan, Equa, Castro Franco, Vanuatu, Italy, Oceania. Hello, my name is June Scudeler. My maternal Métis ancestors come from the Red River area of Manitoba, which is now Winnipeg, Batoche, Saskatchewan, and my dad was from Castro Franco, Veneto, Italy. And I'm honored to be here on the Musqueam territory and here at the Museum of Anthropology. I'm an assistant professor at Simon Fraser University in the Department of Indigenous Studies and cross-appointed with Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies. And it's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to our chat. So Kent Monkman is a Swampy Cree artist. There's Swampy Cree, there's Plains Cree, there's Woods Cree. So Crees are very mobile. So I think it's really important to situate him as a Swampy Cree person from the Fraser River Cree Nation in Manitoba, but he grew up in an affluent area of Winnipeg, so we can talk more about that later. So he does painting, he does film, he does performance, he does installation. So he started kind of doing abstract painting, but he realized in order to connect to the audience, he wanted to do more representational art. So, and a fun fact is, he did a book with Thomas King, of course, the well-known Cherokee writer. He did a children's book, he illustrated it, and it's called Coyote Columbus Story. So you can see, it's very colorful, so if you have any kids in your life, I really recommend it. So, and then Miss Chief Eagle Testickle, we can see her in the background here, is an alter ego of Monkman's. She's two-spirit, and it's really important to call her two-spirit because she's not really a drag persona, she's not trans. So the word two-spirit comes from a gathering of Indigenous LGBTQ people in outside of Winnipeg, so it was kind of like a powwow for queer folks. Before, two-spirit people were called birdash by anthropologists. So that was a very kind of derogatory term, comes from bardash, from the Arabic, meaning like kept boy, which is, well, no thanks. So they came up with the term Nij Manaduag, which is Anishinaabe or Ojibwe, meaning literally two spirits. So the term initially started meaning like you have a male and a female spirit, but it's really evolved from there to cover a whole, it's like an umbrella term. And it's kind of interesting. So there's a younger generation of particularly writers coming up. So two-spirit is sometimes sliding into this new term called indigiqueer, which was actually coined by Plains Cree filmmaker Thurza Cuthand in the early 2000s, I believe. And now it's kind of, getting a lot more traction now. So. So Miss Chief is definitely like a trickster. She's not trans, she's not drag, she's a two-spirit alter ego of Monkman's. And if you see, when you look at Miss Chief, you can see that her head is always Monkman's face. So,
thank you, June. Before we talk about Shame and Prejudice, June and I would like to talk about two of Kent Monkman's earlier paintings. The first one is called Artist and Model. When I saw this painting for the first time, my eyes went straight to that naked cowboy with big erection, and he is sprayed with these pink arrows. Then when I calmed down a little bit, there was a broken camera right around the cowboy. Yeah. Could you talk to us about that painting?
So the reason why I picked Artist and Model, which is from 2003, it's like the first time that Miss Chief appeared in a Monkman painting, so I think it's a very important painting for that reason. So when Miss Chief first appeared, she was called Miss Chief Share, so S-H-A-R, Eagle Testickle, geez. So of course, so that comes from Cher, who did the Half-Breed song, and of course Cher is not Indigenous, but you know, she was wearing like a very big headdress, and I just want to point out that headdresses are not for everybody. Please don't wear them at Halloween. They're for you know, a great, you know, symbol of great honor for prairie folks. But of course there's Saint Sebastian. So of course she's playing with the Indian and cowboy motif, and then who has the power? If, you know, in Westerns it's always the Indians that get killed off, but Miss Chief is definitely empowered. Of course Saint Sebastian is a kind of a gay icon, especially during the AIDS epidemic era. And also because it's that weird kind of Christian, you know, you have to be in a lot of pain or suffer a lot of pain to have martyrdom in the next world, right? So, so she's playing a lot with a lot of stuff in there, and interestingly, Monkman parents were Christian missionaries. So his dad was Swampy Cree, his mom is Anglo-Irish. So that's, yeah, so there you can see there's a lot of Christian iconography in his paintings.
Yes, and then when I saw that broken camera, I assume it was broken by Miss Chief.
Yeah, she was just...
And that switch of gaze, could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so you know, of course, Monkman says that when, you know, when the settlers came, the colonizers came, they were looking at, you know, looking at indigenous people, trying to figure them out. But then you're kind of like, but we were also looking at you, like indigenous people we were looking at you as well. So he does a lot about reversing the gaze, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was very powerful.
Yeah, and it's a fun painting. So, you know, we have to remember that Miss Chief is a trickster, right?
Yes,
so
she
there's
is.
a lot of humor, right? Yeah.
Yes, the next painting we would like to talk about is called Clouds in the Canyon from 2008. In this painting, fabulously gaily dressed dandies seemingly lounging in this vast open space. Then I thought about, wait a minute, is this the settlers' idea of empty space up for grab?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, good point. So Monkman's playing with the idea of terra nullius, or empty space. So the idea was that, of course, you know, the colonizers came, there's nobody living here. Of course there were, so we can take over this space. And also Monkman interestingly says, you know, and he talks about these landscape paintings as being like a billboard for settlers to come, right? Look at all this beautiful empty space that you can occupy. And of course the dandies, I love the dandies. So he had a phase where he's painting dandies, which were very well dressed, you know,
fabulously dressed.
Fabulously
yes.
dressed, and actually it's kind of interesting, like indigenous men kind of picked up on that.
Yes.
So sometimes you would see indigenous men, you know, carrying umbrellas, dressed up all fine, and sometimes they were respected by the community. Sometimes they were like, okay, what do you got? Because they would just kind of laze around and be like fabulous, and people are like, shouldn't you be doing something?
But you know what I thought about when I was spending a little more time looking at that, and I thought, maybe these dandies aren't just showing up for nothing. They're just intentionally showing up to reclaim the colonized space.
Well, exactly, and you know, of course, the painter doesn't even see them, and they're like, hello, we're fabulous. Why are you not acknowledging us? Why are we not in your painting, right? But it's like, well, you know, it's the empty landscape we're interested in, not your like amazing lavender boots, right? Yes.
Thank you, June. Now we're standing in front of Scent of a Beaver, and I think this is so much power play going on. Miss Chief is in a swing, and on the right, General Montcalm of France in blue. On the left, English General Wolfe in red. And still, Miss Chief is fully dressed, but somehow there's sexual energy happening.
Yeah, so this is based on a painting by Fragonard. So it's very like rococo and over the top and very kind of playful. So that's why Miss Chief is kind of dressed the way she is. But notice she does have moccasins on. And of course you mentioned like, you know, the French in blue, the English in red. So they're kind of vying for her attention because of course France and Britain were fighting for what would become Canada. Again, I find that Miss Chief has this very kind of enigmatic look on her face.
Yes.
Like sometimes like Monkman likes to keep his paintings kind of ambiguous as to what's exactly happening or what Miss Chief is feeling, so it gives the viewer kind of room to interpret what's happening.
I think she's in control, and she's obviously more powerful than those two men.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, when the settlers came, they really needed Indigenous people to survive, right? So, so again, it's like, yeah, it's kind of ambiguous. Like she's part of the power play, but she's kind of not, staring off into the distance. Yeah, it's kind of she's not smiling. She looks very, it's kind of interesting. It's very kind of enigmatic, right?
Yes. During the other day, you told me the Cree language does not have gender in the language.
Right, yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so Cree and a lot of Indigenous language, there's no gender. So I did audit a couple Cree classes, and I have no facility with languages, but that kind of blew my mind, that there's no gender. So of course in English we have he or she, you know, German has like neutral, which is really weird. It's kind of interesting, like if you read Maria Campbell, who's a Métis writer and elder, she has this book called Stories of the Road Allowance People, where she talks about, she interviewed male Métis elders, and the Métis elders, they switch between he or she because, can you imagine if there's like no gender in your language and you have to talk about a person, and so it really, and it also frees kind of people to be who they want to be, right?
Yes.
If there's no gender
in any given moment.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I can be this or that when I choose to, when I feel like it.
And if you're not referred to like he or she, right? You're just a person.
Yeah,
right?
so you can see the person beyond the gender.
So when, you know, the colonizers came with, you know, Christianity, that they were outraged that there was these people running, you know, people that, you know, didn't have gender or these in their language, and there's people who may not fall into like a gender, like don't fall into binaries, right?
Now we're standing in front of the daddies. This painting is based on the fathers of Confederation, and what I see is daddies completely suited up. And it looks like an historical event. But Miss Chief is showing up naked, but she's in control again here too. And it looks like she's getting more energy from her nakedness and from her sexuality. And she's intervening herself into the history. What do you think?
So did you want to maybe tell the viewers what daddies are?
Oh, sure. Just in case you don't know who daddies are. Well, in gay culture, daddies are often older men who like to be in relationship with younger men. Of course, we're talking about consenting adult here. And maybe perhaps more than just a relationship, someone who'd like to have sexual role play and play the part of daddy. And daddies often have more power over boy, or they may be more assertive. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for explaining that. And also, that reminds me of a quotation by Monkman talking about putting Indians on top, right, in the power relationship, especially with, you know, at the beginning of his kind of more pictorial, representative painting about, you know, he was doing a lot of with cowboys and Indians, so Indians on top, Indians having the power. So this is based on a painting by Robert Harris. So it shows like Charlottetown, and when signing documents for the creation of Canada in 1867. So of course, as you can imagine, Indigenous people were not consulted in any way, shape, or form about this. So Miss Chief, and Monkman has said, is showing her junk to the daddies, right? So again, kind of ambiguous. What is she doing? Is she like beseeching? Is she pleading? Is she lecturing? And I love, looking at the different faces, and of course you see in the center there, Sir, quote unquote, John A. Macdonald, the first Prime Minister, who was well known for drinking and et cetera, and residential schools, and
Although I don't think Miss Chief is pleading. To me, she looks like she's more like preaching.
Okay, yeah.
And because she's naked, showing up, is that what we call sovereign erotic?
I mean, it could be, right? It depends on what you think Miss Chief is saying. But the sovereign erotic comes from an essay by Coley Driscoll, who's a Cherokee scholar. And the sovereign erotic is, Indigenous people healing from the trauma of colonization, and especially with sexuality, because, Indigenous people, the forms of sexuality were seen as deviant or deviant by the colonizer. So women having a lot of power. So Indigenous women are still highly sexualized by settler men. And of course, we've talked about how two-spirit people were seen. So it's really important to reclaim sexuality for Indigenous people. So you'll see there's a lot of writing and art about Indigenous sexuality and eroticism, and it's a very powerful and necessary part of the sovereign erotic. So.
Thank you, June. Let's move on to talk about the bears of Confederation next. Now we are looking at the bears of Confederation, and there's so much happening in these paintings. Before June and I talk about the paintings, perhaps I should explain what bears are in gay culture. Yes? So the bears are in male gay culture. A bear is an often larger, hairier man who projects an image of rugged masculinity. But I've met a polar bear. He described himself as a polar bear because he's older and he's gray. And also I've seen a description of panda bear. He happens to be an Asian man, but bear-shaped. So yes, let's talk about these paintings. So much is happening, many sexual acts, and in a big landscape.
And of course, this is linked to the daddies because it's the daddies from the previous painting that are running around. So it's the so-called fathers of Confederation that are being pursued by the bears, attacked by the bears, having sex with the bears. And I guess this painting brings up the idea of, is it consensual? Does it matter? Especially because, and you can see Miss Chief there with her...
A whip?
A whip, thank you. So you can see Miss Chief with her whip, kind of like, is she whipping the bears? Is she whipping the daddies? So,
Yes, there's a quote, I would like to quote this booklet, comes with the exhibition. In it, Miss Chief says, "My maskwak is Cree language for bear. My bear enjoy converting those Christians back to their authentic natures." I think that's what is going on, is it?
So they're running rampant outside of the strictures of...
Yes. And when I see these sexual acts, and I have to question, do you need to be a top to be powerful?
Right. So you don't necessarily have to be the top. That there's this kind of misconception that it's just the top that has power. The bottom could be a power bottom, just kind of having power. So it's not like this, again, it's not a binary, right? I was talking before about how it's not always a binary that, things have to be this way or that way. So it's fluid, right?
It's not action itself makes one more powerful. It's more than that.
Yeah, it's just like the energy you give. And I'm trying to think that Miss Chief talks about, how, the colonizers, they like being the bottoms, right? Is the other thing. So Monkman plays a lot about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next piece. we're going to talk about perhaps the most controversial piece in this exhibition. This is called Mischiefs Praying Hands. First question came to me is, are those Kent Monkman's hands cast?
Yes, they are actually, yeah.
I think I've seen these in other controversial paintings. Hanky Panky is the paintings that we're thinking about.
Yeah, so Hanky Panky was revealed this year, early this year. So it was kind of interesting how it was revealed. It was revealed in little chunks. So you saw Miss Chief with the red, and these are also butt plugs, right?
Yes.
So red butt plugs. And there's like Justin Trudeau kneeling with this kind of like happy look on his face, waiting to have the get the butt plug. And then there are the praying hands. And of course, it was in a teepee with a bunch of Indigenous women laughing. So some people liked it, but there was a lot of people that critiqued it, right? So it's like, is this consensual? Would these Cree women be happy about this? This kind of maybe non-consensual act of, as they were saying, sexual violence, right?
But then that red hanky in Trudeau, as Trudeau looked like a person's pants, it has a red hanky hanging. That's a consent or telling that I am interested in this.
Yeah, and interested in fisting. So
yes. I have to think whose these artworks are for.
So that's a real debate in the Indigenous community. Who are these paintings, installation films for? So, I mean, Monkman talks about wanting to insert Indigenous people into the art canon, but it's just, so it's like, but do Indigenous people need to be inserted into the art canon? Is there a separate art, is there a separate Indigenous art canon, or so it's the debate, should Indigenous art be just shown by itself, or should it be shown as alongside other types of art? So I mean, the critique of Monkman is that this art is for settlers, right? It's, he does say it's for Indigenous people, and I know there's Indigenous people that get a lot out of it. There's, queer Indigenous, Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer folks that feel like they're really being seen with Mischief. But then there's, the critiques of, he did a performance with Jean-Paul Gaultier, and that these paintings, who are buying these paintings? The Scream is not, it's at the Denver Art Museum, it's actually not in Canada. So, yeah.
More for us to think about these important issues.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. One thing I would like to talk to you about is about in your 2015 paper, quote, Indians on Top. In it, you say, Cree people position an ethic of principled non-interference as a way of life, should not interfere in any way with another person, that providing a way for gender-variant people to be seen as an integral part of community rather than as an anomaly. And when I read that, I started to cry because as a queer person, all this time, 55 years, I was walking around as an anomaly. And when I read that, everybody needs to hear this. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm really glad that, that quotation or that that made you feel seen. And I really want to give a shout out to Dr. Alex Wilson, who's Swampy Cree, Two-Spirit academic, who his work is very influential and also came up, talks about the principle of the ethic of principled non-interference, which means that people are part of the community. You can be who you want to be as long as you don't harm the community, which is really important. So it's not polite to tell people what to do. Dr. Alex Wilson also talks about Two-Spirit people not being special, but just being a part of the community. They weren't, which is really important, that they're not other, they're just part of the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also you write in it that Kent Monkman positions Two-Spirit people as agents of their own histories.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Miss Chief is there to do, right? She's very much in control. Again, there's still some ambiguity, but she is definitely like a powerful figure, right? Who can travel through time, you know? She's also time, obviously travels through time, so she's a time traveling trickster.
Yes, she's showing up and taking up spaces.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, June.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for being such a good partner in all this.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Issaku.
Hi, Marie.
June, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I can't start my video. So.
Okay, well, we can hear you, and that's a great thing. I just wanted to start by thanking you both for putting this together. Both of you worked really hard to make sure that you did the exhibit here justice, while also really sticking to June's expertise and Issaku's personal interests. Hey, June. So bravo to both of you. That was really amazing. And we do have questions pouring in. First, actually, let me say thank you to Ria Sextina as well, who shot and edited everything that you all just saw. And thank you for everybody for coming out and or staying in and actually watching this today.
Thank you, Mary. So I have a few questions. June, the first one is, what is sovereign erotic?
So it's was coined by Quolie Driscoll, who's a Cherokee scholar, and the idea that Indigenous people, especially queer Indigenous people, femmes, women have kind of are healing and healed from colonization and trauma. So it's really important for, you know, especially because Indigenous people, especially like Two-Spirit people and women, are seen as, you know, really highly sexualized, especially women. So it's important that Indigenous people have control over how their bodies are seen and also reclaim our sexuality. That it's, you know, that we're sexual people, because it's all really tied up with colonization and the residential school system, right? Especially like Christianity, like bodies are not, bodies are dirty. They're, you know, and especially Indigenous women are seen as highly sexualized. I mean, that's why there's so many missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, because Indigenous, those folks are seen as targets, right? Lesser than, available, yeah.
And next question is, what is upcoming Indigenous artists should we be paying attention to? If you have a list of artists.
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, okay. Hopefully I can. Okay, I'm just doing something here. So hopefully I can screen share because I made. Here we go. I made a handy dandy PowerPoint for everybody to look at. So I'll just leave that up for a couple of minutes so people can take note of some folks, because unfortunately there's a tendency there's the one Indigenous person at a time syndrome. So there can only be like one Indigenous writer at a time, one Indigenous artist at a time, like one Indigenous filmmaker at a time. Like, I don't know, settler society is like, we can only handle one Indigenous person at a time. So, so I think it's really important to be aware of, you know, more folks than just like Kent Monkman. You know, he does get a lot of press. I mean, I've written 3 times about him. So, you know, and I think, of course, his work is very important, but there's also these folks. And I just want to point out that Lindsay Nixon writes a lot about art. So if you check out their website, there's lots of great writing about other Indigiqueer, Two-Spirit folks you can check out. So yeah. So, and then you can see Dana Danger's amazing photography. So, and this is just like not an exhaustive list. So please keep on looking out for folks to follow and check out their work.
Thank you, June.
You're welcome.
Mary, do you have any more questions lined up?
Yeah, we sure do. So I'll start with the first one that we had. And there's a few other questions too, so I'm just going to get to one particular point of it. But one of our guests says, I have many female Indigenous great-grandmothers who married white men, but zero male counterparts. Can you speak to Monkman's ideas on representing these women as hereditary grandmothers of many of us?
Well, okay, that's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe I have to admit I was looking at the questions. I did want to, maybe that'll dovetail into Kendall's question about, and I thank you, Kendall, for pointing that out, that the Hanky Panky, it's a sacred space and a sacred women's space where it's happening for like Indigenous women, Two-Spirit folks and femmes. So I really thank you for pointing that out. So I mean that, I guess you could say in some ways that that painting might show, grandmothers or future grandmothers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Monkman has talked about the influence of his grandmother on his artwork. She died at 100 when he was 10 years old, and she was removed from her land and really tried to keep hold of her land. And I believe she went to residential school and didn't really talk about it. I think was his great grandmother or grandmother. But anyways, yeah. So he really talks a lot about the influence of his grandmother on his work.
And do you want to touch base more on what Kendall has said?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thank you for pointing that out. And I don't know if you can I don't know if I should read. Look at
question. So
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in case not everybody's following the questions. Are you going to address that Hanky Panky specifically was felt as harmful by Indigenous women and femmes?
Yeah.
Also that this was offensive because it was set in a sacred women's space.
Yeah, so thank you for pointing that out, Kendall. And I think, I mean, that was a lot of the critique of the painting, right? That, the harm it caused for some folks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to address about any of the paintings that you've spoken to tonight, or anything else about his body of work that leaves a lasting impression on you from when you first found him as an artist to today? And what kind of weight does he hold in art history as it stands?
Well, yeah, for me, it's, well, I've noticed there's like a trajectory of his paintings. So he kind of went from the copying landscapes by 19th century American artists. Like I think I didn't get to see the whole film, the whole video because of technical stuff, but the idea of the empty landscape and how these 19th century landscape paintings were used as billboards for settlers to come in and take the land because there's nobody there. So he was kind of, playing with that, inspired a lot by George Catlin, who was a American painter who would, go around painting the vanishing Indians before they disappeared. And of course, Indigenous people weren't vanishing. So he was kind of playing with that, but I've noticed his later paintings, and I always like, what does political mean? But, if you look at his latest paintings, he's really, some of the paintings are of water protectors or, addressing the high incarceration rates of Indigenous people. So he's kind of going more overtly political, I guess. I don't know if that's for lack of a better term. And Mischief aren't in these paintings, which is kind of interesting. So it's like, if Mischief isn't in the paintings, it's kind of, he's being more serious because, Mischief is a trickster figure using a lot of humor. So, it's important when Mischief isn't in the picture, right? It means something when she's not there.
And so I just wanted to remind everybody who's still watching that the exhibit that we have right now of Monkman's work is called Shame and Prejudice, and it's going to be open until January. So we do encourage you to come in and take a look. We've got spaced out timing for everybody to come in and be in the museum safely at a distance from others for about 2 hours. So it's a great time to come and get to feel like you're in an exhibit all by yourself. And I do encourage everyone to please do some research on Kent Monkman. His body of work is incredibly vast. It covers so many different topics that we can't actually cover it all in any one of these meetings that we're having. So it's worth taking a peek at. It's worth doing your research. And it's worth coming to check out the show. Issaku, thank you so much for all the time and effort that you put into it. Just so everybody knows, Issaku is an essential part of this museum.
Oh.
He is a wonderful contributor as a volunteer, and has been a champion of making sure that queer communities and issues are represented here at the museum. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. I would like to thank you. You're the curator of public programs and engagement, and also Ria, for tech wizard Ria. Thank you so much for creating this very exciting, interesting, engaging program online. And I think it is very important that institutions like MOA stay engaged with BIPOC, LGBTQ+ communities all year round. So I would like to thank you very much.
All right, everyone, thanks. And tune in for our next program. See you all again.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.